Hey everybody, welcome to another video on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. We're inching closer to round one. We're inching closer to the real stuff. There's a real smell about it. Melbourne is not the same when the footy's not on. That's just a fact. Now, in today's video, I'm going to rank every single player on the list. For those of you who were here last year, you'll remember the ranking that I did using Tier Maker online. So what I've done is, I've gone and downloaded all the individual player profile photos and I've uploaded them to Tier Maker. I'm going to put a link to the Tier Maker in the description below, and I'm going to ask a few of our content creators to get amongst this and do their rankings. I'm going to show you mine. You're going to watch me do it live, and then at the end you can leave a comment below, tell me who you think should be higher, who you think should be lower. I've done this based off not potential. I think we get too sucked in, well, I get too sucked into potential, because if we did it off talent and potential and what a player could be, we'd have far too many tier 1 and tier 2 players. So I'm looking at it from a holistic point of view, talent and availability. So those who have not been available for injury reasons and the like will obviously probably be a little lower than what they could be. But I'm looking forward to seeing what you think and what you have to say. I'm going to look at Pommy. Pommy will do one for sure. We'll get the navy blue corner boys to see if they can do one. I might see if Heath bucks down for one of these, and we'll get this rotation going, and then you can check out everyone's rankings. So let's get straight into it. Okay, we're going to begin with Patrick Cripps in tier 1. Very straightforward. Doesn't need too much of an explanation. So we'll just start there, and then I'll just start picking some random ones. Harry, tier 1 for sure. He was tier 1 last year. McGovern, this is the interesting one. It's players like this. So McGovern for me is a tier 1 talent, but part of this exercise is around availability as well. So for that reason, I'm going to put McGovern in tier 2 with the hope that by the end of this season, he's a tier 1 player because he's played 15, 16 plus games in season 2023. So tier 2 for now, but I really do think he could be up here. De Koning. De Koning. I'm going to put De Koning on tier 3. But again, this is a classic example of someone that could very easily be up here. Not sure if he's quite ready to make the leap to tier 1. But I think he had a pretty solid year last year. I think 2022 was the first year we really got to see him play games consistently. And that was the milestone for him. And you're looking at his body in the preseason footage, like it's really starting to come together. I've got a lot of faith that De Koning will be a tier 2 player by the end of this season. But until then, I'm going to put him in tier 3 for now. Akers, I think this guy's a tier 2 player. And the reason is I think if he's fit and healthy, he's selected. And if he's fit and healthy, I think he'll play every game this year. So I think we'll rely on him. Obviously, the wing position was one that we needed to fill. We've got a really strong one in there. So I'll put Akers tier 2. Hollands, I'm going to put him, well, I might skip Hollands for now. We'll just leave that one. Let's go a little random one. Let's go Pito. Pito, for me, is a tier 2 player. For some reason, the work that he does is not appreciated, I don't believe, by the majority of the fan base. I think they look at the flashy things, the big strong marks, or whatever the case may be. I think if you go back to 2022, and there are quite a few reasons why we started to falter, but I think the loss of Pito really hurt us. He's a strong body. He creates space for the midfielders, and he really allows them to go to work. He competes at a really high level. He's not a superstar ruckman, but he's a very, very solid ruckman. And I don't know. I don't believe you need a superstar ruckman to win a premiership. I think Pito can very much so become a premiership player. And I just love the way he competes. And, if I'm going into a final, I want a warrior to be playing. And I think he certainly has that. I think as it stands right now, he's our number 1 ruckman. De Koning obviously has the potential, which we all know about. But we're not talking about potential anymore. We're only focusing on what is. Walshy, pretty straightforward. Tier 1, no explanation needed. Marchbank, I think I had Marchbank in tier 4 last year from memory because he hadn't played and I had no idea. I'm going to put him to tier 3. But this is another guy who I believe I actually think Caleb Marchbank is a tier 1 talent. Now, again, there's a full picture here. It just hasn't been available. Got to play a few games towards the back end of 2022, which is exciting. And, the idea of him maybe doing a Charlie Curnow and playing a big part in season 2023 would be huge for us. And I think it would see him rise right up to the top. So I'm going to put him in tier 3 for now because of the lack of availability that we've seen with him. But I think from a talent perspective, he's right up there. Brody Kemp, I'll probably put him here. He was a tier 5 player last year. I expect him to become a factor by the end of the year. And I don't know what that really looks like in terms of games. If he can manage, 7 to 10 games this year and really, break into the side, which would mean he'd need to take the spot of someone like a Nick Newman, for example, then I think that'd be a good result. But as it stands right now, I've got him here. Doc, tier 1 player. Let's go to Hollins. Hollins, I'll probably put him here in tier 4 because I think he's going to get an opportunity at some point in the year. I haven't got high expectations of him, but I like what I've seen. I've now become a believer that he can play in the AFL this year. I wasn't sure about it when I first saw him, given his body. He hasn't really grown into his body as much, but he's got the moves, he's got the footwork, he's evasive, he's got some smarts about him and some quickness. So I'll put him in tier 4. Jack Carroll in the same boat. Would like to see him crack in a little bit more and break into the side. We're entering the 4th season of his career, I believe. So I look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. Thirds, I'm going to put him tier 3 together with Motlop and together with Matt Owies. Where, if I find him. I think they're at this point where, the youth is really where the excitement comes from. I think Durds and Motlop will eventually be the small forwards. However, I'm not discounting Matt Owies. I think he's one that really quickly gets overlooked because there's such excitement bubbling around Durds and Motlop. But I think as it stands right now going into season 2023, I'm giving Owies the respect that I think he's earned. He really does present really well. He gets better every season. He's a great story. He really is a Category B rookie, a basketballer, and he's made the grade. I think he made a really nice leap last season, particularly early. Once he got hurt and then came back into the side, he just didn't have the same power through the body, but his pressure is elite. And the one thing about Owies at the start of last year when we were having the best form of the year, his ability to hit targets inside 50 was a feature. So I've got him there. And again, these guys have played 10 plus games, these youngsters. So I think they're a level above the Carrolls and the Kemps and the Hollands right now. Jack Silvani, I had him tier 2 last year. I thought about putting him in tier 3, but I will stick with 2. And the reason is because of how valuable he is to the club on so many levels. On a tangible level, forward, can pinch hit in the ruck if needed. Amazing competitor. The intangibles are obviously, the heart and soul and the application and the love for the club and the way he plays with the passion. But I love Jack Silvani, and I think he's a tier 2 player. Ches, tier 1, no worries about that. Zachy Williams, I'm going to put him here, but he goes in the exact same category as McGovern, where I think he's a tier 1 talent, but given the availability that we have seen from him so far, it just hurts at the moment. So for the moment, it's tier 2, but by the end of the season, I really do expect him to rise into this tier 1 level because in terms of his talent, he's as good as most, if not anyone on the list. And I look forward to seeing him really do that. So George Hewitt, easy money, tier 1. Charlie Curnow, easy money, tier 1. Curnow was actually a tier 2 last year because there was a little bit of uncertainty around him. Young fella, Lemmy, I'll put him here. I think it's a development year for him. I think Binns as well. I'm not putting any expectation on them. Lewis Young, last year he was in tier 4 and I didn't know much about him. And quickly he rose in his rankings. And I'm going to put him in tier 2 for now. He definitely has scope to come to tier 1, but let's just give him something to work with. Thought he was phenomenal last year and one of the biggest surprise packets for me because I hadn't watched much of him prior to him being at Carlton. Sam Philp, I'm going to put him tier 5. I don't have a read on how close he is to actually playing football, if I'm honest. He's been injured. I understand that. So again, the availability factor comes in. But yeah, I'm not confident that he's close enough to play games just yet. I might have that read wrong, but I don't sense it. I haven't had any indication that tells me he's going to be playing regular games. Newman, tier 2 for me. I think he's a very important piece to the back line, a mature head, and also on the list, a really mature head is important for us. Plowman, tier 3. I think he sits there. He's firmly a depth player on the list. I think if we get an injury or two in the back line, he then helps out. So I put him there. Jack Martin. Oh, God. Talk about a tier 1 talent. I think here, is it 3 or 2? It's 2. It's 2. Yeah, he's in the same group as McGovern and Zach Williams. Guys that have super talent, but the availability factor hurts them. So we're already talking about 1, 2, 3 guys there. So gives you an indication as to the list. Lockie Cowan. I'm going to put him at the top, at the front of the tier 5 list. I think I've got him just below this group, but there's something about this kid that I really like. I like the look of him. Wiedering, easy money, up to the top. Zach Fisher, I think I had him in tier 3 last year, and I think he proved himself last year, and he puts himself in this second tier now. I think he had a really strong year. Sardi, up to the top. Cottrell, I think I'm going to put Cottrell in tier 3. I think that's where he sits. Kennedy, another interesting one. I had him here last year, tier 3. He rose up. So he's now a tier 1 player, one of our best midfielders. And again, if he's healthy, he's one of the best, one of the first picked in that midfield. So he sits right up there comfortably. Ed Kerno, I'll probably put him tier 3, although I really do feel like he can match it output-wise with most of these guys on tier 2. But given he hasn't played for a while now, I'll put him in tier 3. Paddy Dow, this is an interesting one. Paddy Dow for me should be here or here, but I'm really not confident on where he's at and how close he is to playing. He's obviously, you think about the midfield, he's behind, Kennedy, Chera, Walsh, Cripps. I think even, if you talk about Blake Acres, I know he's a winger, but yeah, I think Paddy Dow is probably dropped a little bit. I expect him to be better this year and to contribute. So I'm hoping he's going to find a way to stay on the list, which would mean he needs to have a good season. And if he has a good season and starts fulfilling that potential, there's no reason why he can't find himself up here or even on the second level. Cunners, I'm going to put him on tier, oh God. Tier 4 is too low, but he hasn't played in a while. It's tier 3. I think he's a really strong talent. I think we all know he's a strong talent, but just hasn't been able to get on the park. Hopefully, touch wood, cross your fingers, cross your toes, all of it. Hope for good health for him because he's got a little something. He's got some X factor about him. We all know that, but we've been saying it for too long. Lockie O'Brien up here on the 3rd tier. I thought he really rose last year. I had him, I think, tier 4 or tier 5. I didn't expect him to stay on the list, if I'm totally honest. So fair play to him. Lockie Fogarty, he's another one I'm just not sure about where he's fitting in the list. I know he's had his injury issues, had a really bad back issue. I'm worried about his availability. I'm worried about the body, and I'm worried about the injuries that he's obviously going through. So I think he's down here. Murkov, I think for the most part, he's a development player still. But having said that, I think by the end of this year, I'm hoping for him to become just a factor when it comes to team selection. Dom McQuay, I think he's also in that development phase there. Sam Durden, I'd probably put him towards the front of this list. I don't know how many games he'll play. I think he's a backup. If Wiedering were to go down Touchwood or Lewis Young, he'd probably be one of the first players to be recalled. So that's where I'll put him. Jordan Boyd, he's going to be injured for a while. So I'm going to put him, I would have put him here, but I know he's going to miss a good chunk of footy. So I'm going to put him here on tier 4 and maybe towards the front because there's definitely something about him that they love. I think in terms of his talent, he's probably pushing the 3, but I'll put him at the 4 for now. And then Josh Honey. This is an interesting one. Everyone, for the most part, seems to rave about Honey, and I like Josh Honey. Don't get me wrong. It's just sort of getting to that time where, okay, we've got to see it at the top level, and there's an opportunity there because that third forward, that hybrid forward, hasn't been locked down yet. Jack Martin obviously has his injury woes. Honey hasn't been able to lock it down. Jack Silvani hasn't been able to lock it down, understanding that he had to play in the ruck last year. So there is a factor there, but I'm going to put Josh Honey here on the 4th tier, and I'm hoping that from here he can rise up. You know, I look at him, I look at Dow, I look at these types, I look at Kemp and Carroll, and I'm hoping for at least 2 of them to be able to rise up to this level here. So yeah, this is it. These are our A grade. I mean, look at the list, mate. It's in tip-top condition. Have a look at it. You look at these guys here. So Hewitt, I had him level 2 last year. Kennedy, I had him level 3. Charlie Kerner, I had him in level 2. So you can see the top line is here. These are the guys, well, essentially the guys in the top 2, if they're fit and healthy and available, I think both levels are playing and they're selected, no questions asked. It's this group here that can chop and change. For the most part, if they're fit and healthy, they're a starting 22 player, but they've got injury concerns, or they're a bit young in their development, or there's competition for spots, or they're a backup. So that's how I see this playing out. But yeah, I'm going to put the link to this in the description, and I'm hoping to see a few more of these pop up on YouTube, or even just send it to me on Instagram if you don't have a YouTube channel and you want to get around it. But leave me some feedback in the comments below. Who would you have higher? Who would you have lower? Where would you put them? Let me know where you think I got it right. Let me know where you think I got it wrong, and we can have a discussion about it, and we'll go from there.